us as women in the workplace are going to decide if women have ruined the workplace, as was claimed in this recently published op-ed in the New York Times titled, "Did Women Ruin the Workplace and Can Conservative Feminism Fix It?" Now, this prompted a lot of outrage, predictably so, from their usual readers. One of them said, the New York Times taking a cue from Twitter communists on how to whitewash misogyny. And another one said, what happened, New York Times? Why not stand by your original headline? They did end up switching it to, did liberal feminism ruin the workplace? Because it's absolutely an accurate representation of this trash conversation. To publish this at all should be a fireable offense, but to publish it as women's rights are being decimated is deeply immoral, bordering on evil. So I mean, this response in and of itself entirely is what warrants a conversation about whether women are ruining the workplace, because this is the attitude that takes place in the workplace
Well,
these
I think
days.
there are a lot of people in our comments saying we are proving that point today.
We are actively proving that women ruin the workplace.
We're so terrible.
So this is actually a transcript of a sort of debate that was being moderated by Ross Douthat. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
That was a debate between Helen Andrews and Leah Libresco-Sargent. Helen Andrews was defending her column, which is titled The Great Feminization, which is essentially calling out this problem of a demographic shift that took place in the workplace where there are just more women around. And she believes that that is the reason wokeness reigns supreme in the workplace now. And it is an inherently feminine vice. And then on the other side of the table, Leah Sargent is the title. She is the author of this book titled Dignity of Dependence, a Feminist Manifesto. From a Catholic perspective, she's arguing for a form of conservative feminism, which she sees this as the antidote to a lot of the excesses of feminine vices in the workplace. I admittedly sympathize more with Helen Andrews on this, and I would be remiss not to recall this TikTok that went viral earlier this year from a workplace of women at a skincare company. Let's take a look.
Gen Z boss and a mini. Gen Z boss and a mini. Itty bitty titties and a bulb. Itty bitty titties and a bulb. 5'3" and an attitude. 5'3" and an attitude. Secret product in a trench. Secret product in a trench. New friend green and a sneaky link. New friend green and a sneaky link. Fake dead hands in a hoop. Fake dead hands in a hoop. Gen Z boss and a mini.
So
Our turn.
I reposted this recently just as a joke, and it has a lot of responses from people saying, like, why do you care if women are just having a fun, silly time at work? You just hate fun. But when men see this, men who work with a lot of women see this, it sort of represents everything that's wrong with a co-ed workplace, because women are allowed to run rampant and behave however they want. Men, however, their primary strong suits and virtues are dulled, and male vices are the only ones that are allowed to be attacked. And primarily, the way that that happens is by way of civil rights lawsuits, Me Too claims, and HR tyranny. And that's really what Helen Andrews was trying to put a spotlight on. And it's funny because a lot of the comments on the New York Times piece on other platforms are shaming them for even publishing this. But on YouTube, where the majority of users, both viewers and YouTubers, are men, the comments were saying this was actually a very reasonable discussion and they're glad that it took place. One said, this interview serves as a great example of what takes place in feminization. They beat around the bush, and Leah made subtle attacks while smiling and speaking in a sweet tone. Helen, on the other hand, was avoiding saying anything that would trigger a negative response. She was tiptoeing around the real problems. And she was also pointing out that, you know, women in the workplace in general are very averse to confrontation, turbulence, correction, disagreement of any kind, and it quickly can escalate into something that becomes a legal liability for a corporation. Hence why, out of fear, they had to feminize the workplace. So what's your take, ladies? What do you think? Did women ruin the workplace? If you had to give a yes or no answer.
Well, my worst bosses, with the exception of one, were all women. But he was really bad. No, that's two. I've had some bad bosses, you guys.
Both male and female?
Yeah, both male and female. I do think, I think that there is a problem with feminization in the workplace. And it's that a lot of what happens is that the emotional reality of work gets in the way of just like getting your job done. So if you're just like straight and direct and calm, you could be perceived of as not being considerate enough to the other people around you, and that's a thing. I don't think we need cake on everybody's birthday. I definitely always found that annoying. I think there was a lot of stuff in definitely some workplaces that I had that were majority women that were more difficult to handle, and I would always feel like I just needed to leave at lunch and just be like, oh my goodness, like make it stop. It's overbearing. There's more micromanaging.
I think it just depends on the workplace, because we were talking before how like we just have an odd situation, like we're not working in a corporate situation, but I think women are they can be very efficient at their job, but they can also be very catty.
Think about like the industries where there are like mostly women. If you think of publishing, seems like a terrible place to work.
PR is another.
PR, also not for profits.
Definitely.
Like not for profits are rough. Yeah. And I think there's too many female teachers. And I think that
for like young children,
for high school, middle school, I think that women often will lend a more emotional atmosphere to things. And that I think sometimes that emotional stuff gets in the way, especially when you have a lot of women. I think it's also different too. Obviously it depends on the woman, but like when you have a lot of single, unmarried, childless women who are in their 40s and they're not probably going to have kids at that point, they just sort of mother anything that's out there, and that can be a little much.
Even something that doesn't need or want mothering.
Yeah.
Another adult person.
Like another adult. Or these women that have like weasels as pets. Stop it. Is
this a growing problem?
I don't know if it's a growing problem, but I've seen this on occasion. It's not necessary,
I don't know. I think there should also be more opportunity for women to be able to work, but also stay home if they want to, and, be able to mix it up if they want, and it be easier to do both,
I think that totally depends on the industry.
Right.
That was something that Leah in the debate was definitely focusing on more. I think one of the primary differences between their perspectives on both sides of the debate is that Leah is trying to argue from a conservative perspective that liberal feminism has encouraged women to conform more to be like men so that they can be interchangeable with men, so that they can work with the same capacity and time that men are able to dedicate to their careers. And she thinks that has been a disservice to women, which I agree with, at least on the surface. But Helen Andrews, on the other hand, also coming from a conservative perspective, is saying, no, women in the workplace are not so much being encouraged to conform to male ideals, actually. They still are women at the end of the day, have all the same natural proclivities, strong suits, and weaknesses that women have. And actually what's happening is that the men in the workplace are the ones being forced to conform to female ideals and communication styles. So, like, there is a lot of talk on the right generally about how work, specifically like the 9-to-5 corporate life, is making women more masculine. But strangely, I actually think it's not doing that. It's making them more childish. And, like that was reflected in a lot of the comments on my post about this, like calling it daycare, calling work daycare for women. Saying they're like 12-year-olds with credit cards. saying that they're basically incredibly emotionally immature and feed off of each other's own vices. And this is an environment where specific female vices, like their tendency to gossip, destroy reputation, ostracize, blacklist, and shame, are incentivized and not kept in check, whereas the general vices that men tend towards, like vulgarity, violence, and even sometimes sexual harassment, are those are the only vices that are actually reprimanded and ostracized from the workplace.
Have you ever been sexually harassed in a workplace?
I guess if I can't think of an instance, then no. I don't think so.
Alex, have you
No.
ever been? I think that's a decreasing problem.
Well, it definitely is, but the reported cases of sexual harassment continue to stay at the same level.
Which I think is crazy. Like, I think there's a misunderstanding of what sexual harassment. Like, I've definitely been sexually harassed in a workplace, but like it was my manager literally grabbing me and like touching me and making weird comments, and I was like, this is a bit much.
Yeah, like, okay, one thing that came up in their discussion was, I forget the guy's name, but there was a guy who worked at Google who released an internal memo with other people in the company about how perhaps the gender disparities that we see in STEM industries can be explained by our biological innate strong suits and proclivities and interests rather than explained by discrimination. And after he put out this internal memo, a woman in the company was able to use that as fodder as evidence for a gender discrimination lawsuit.
Yeah, she got him fired.
And got him fired.
It was a
And
whole scandal.
yeah, and
It
for
became
good
like
reason.
national news.
But that's kind of proving the point that Helen Andrews was making in this discussion, is that corporations or institutions cannot really be competitive, efficient, or seek truth if a feminized communication style reigns supreme. And I don't know if she even presented like a solution to this problem, because co-ed workplaces are just a feature of 21st century life that we're not going to reverse. But like, it would be nice to not deny reality. And I guess what I was encouraged to see is that this was published in the New York Times, of all places, along with another op-ed that got published in late October titled "How Women Destroyed the West" by David French. And that's like strongly worded, but I'm glad that they're allowing some diversity of thought. And that's one of the main points that Helen Andrews was trying to make, is there's not really allowance for a diversity of thought or disagreement in a feminized workplace. And she was trying to point out that wokeness is not gone by any means, and people on the right need to stop saying that we defeated wokeness, because it really is just taken on a more covert disguise, and it's a feature of the demographic shift that has taken place in corporate America.
Well, the other reason people think that wokeness is gone, like people on the right think wokeness is gone, is because they watch Fox News, they read conservative outlets, and they hang out on X. And there's been a liberal migration away from X. So we're not seeing the, wokeness in the public square anymore, because we're now just standing in different squares entirely.
Yeah.
But if you go over on Blue Sky, it's just as woke as ever.
Or TikTok even.
And even like just more vitriolic about it, more adamant, more stomping of feet, you know? So I don't think wokeness has gone anywhere. And I think also when you have the New York Times and you've had the Washington Post also entertaining more diversity of thought, there's pushback against that. I mean, these are outlets that are trying to stay relevant and trying to recognize, finally, after like almost 10 years of, Trump's ascendancy, they're trying to finally say, okay, maybe it's worth talking to the rest of the country. So I think that's
we had a 20
Yeah.
from Kyle Dixon. Best boss I ever had was a woman by far. However, that was an all-male motorcycle shop. And I assume if there was another woman there with her personality, it would have been a war zone.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, that like if a woman's the boss, it's hard to like have a lot of women employees.
I think it was like a video I saw from Erin Wexler about like her experiences having female bosses. She said that like they were all the absolute worst to me because women are jealous. And it was not a very nuanced take. It was very surface level. And there is kind of this idea that women all secretly hate each other,
right? Or
which I don't think is accurate. We were talking about this briefly off air before the show. And I said it's more accurate to say that when women get together in any sort of setting, whether it's work or social or in a church community, whatever, what tends to happen is that the majority of the women are probably going to single out like one or two women and socially target them. And, is it not working still?
Oh, God.
This is such a problem. Thank you guys for the second party, even though it's silent.
Supposed to do?
We could do the
I don't
Trump
know
dance
either.
for it anyway.
Yeah, we can dance.
The volume is up.
I'm dancing in spirit.
Trump dance. It's the Trump dance.
Thank you guys. Sorry about that again.
But we got 2 crisis parties. Yay. Brett's
yeah.
going to be so happy.
But yeah, the dynamic tends to be that they single out one woman to socially ostracize. It's not that all women are at war with each other all the time. And they are actually, they can excel at teamwork and collaboration, and they have more communitarian values that they display better than men. But it's lopsided because the things that men excel at are not being rewarded and are in fact being punished and suppressed in the workplace. And I think that's all they were trying to discuss. But it was inherently revealing that Leah on the other side of the debate was pressing more for Helen to reveal what she thinks is a virtue in femininity instead of discussing the topic at hand, which is feminine vice.
That is, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'm a boss. I've I think 4 women who
Would you say you're a girl boss?
Work for under me, and then a bunch of men that work under me as well. And I hope that I'm not a toxic boss.
You don't seem like one.
We don't have a lot of, we don't have a lot of turnover.
That's a good sign.
So that's a good sign.
Is it remote?
Yeah, we're remote.
That could.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But I still yell at people.
Oh, I recently saw this
difficult.
insane
why did we
video.
put out that headline? What are you doing?
Well, you
So-
have to do
Look
your
at this
job.
graphic. It's cut off on the side. Stop it. Yeah.
Teen Vogue recently got subsumed into the Vogue brand.
It sure
It's
did.
not its own thing anymore, and Condé Nast employees are like
They're so mad.
mutiny. Like
They fired
they're
4
freaking
people.
out. They fired a bunch of people. They laid off their politics writers. So a lot of the remaining employees were outraged over this. They marched up to the 34th floor to go confront the boss.
Oh,
This
boy.
They can not
white
even the
man.
boss. It was HR. They confronted
Was he
HR.
the head of HR? Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
He's the head of HR.
So he wasn't even, and they were all from in different
right.
Condé Nast outlets.
You saw the video too?
Oh, I wrote about
They
this.
teamed up and confronted this guy at the glass door of his office.
yeah.
And
Okay.
he's like, I'm going to walk over here and lead you guys back to your workstations. And they're like, why are you running away? Why are you running
That
away?
was the trans person
I did. Yeah, I noticed that
from
too.
Bon Appetit.
And they were all like shouting him down. They were ready to like fully burn this guy alive in a witch hunt over it. And that seems like a very feminized workplace to me.
I think so. And actually, what's interesting about that Teen Vogue situation is they fired their political writer. They didn't even have a political writer until 2016.
Right.
So they
when
brought
everything
in,
changed.
they brought in a political writer, and they brought in all of this, political stuff and DEI and LGBT and everything so that they could fight Trump. And
Right.
if you noticed, the trans writer whose name I forget, Alma something, Alma was following the HR guy down the hall and said, what are you doing to fight the Trump administration?
Oh, God.
And it's
Right.
like, well, I'm the head of HR and you're fired.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing that.
Yeah.
So
That was a pathetic moment.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.